All right, hello and welcome everyone. We're going to be playing some historic Pauper today. The deck we're playing is going to be blue-black. I'll show you it in a second. I've just found it's a little faster to submit this way. The deck is pretty traditional in terms of blue-black, but also has a few changes. I disagree with the creature list suggestion that most people are playing, and I think that it's correct to be actually playing a creature package. I've settled on Aven Eternals as they're often a 2-for-1 in a lot of matchups. I like Skeleton Archers because of the number of X1s, which is also the reason why Aven Eternal was very good. And then Salvager rounds it out as both an engine and a just general value card. I disagree with the people who are currently playing on stuff like Coldwater Snapper, which doesn't immediately impact the board and is just clunky and you can easily go around it, and it sits in your hand until turn 6. And also cards like Ill-Gotten Inheritance, which do not immediately impact the board, and if you're playing that on 4 and then they attack you for 5 or 6 out of burn, you're in trouble. So the rest of it is fairly standard. We're on 2 Libations, which is one of the greatest pickups from the last set. And we've got 2 Toll of the Invasions, which makes up for our fewer counterspells that we're playing. I think that being a little lighter on counterspells is correct. The secret sauce in this deck is really Bladebrand, as I have not seen any other lists even considering this. This is a reason that you should be playing this deck because you need to be able to beat Hexproof, and this deck does a pretty good job of it in a combination of counterspells and also different ways of killing the Hexproof creatures. Most decks do not play anything that gives First Strike, so Surprise Death Touch will get you out of most spots. The only time it won't is when you have to deal with something that has Trample and it just goes over the top. So let's jump right in and see what happens. I'll try and give you an analysis of the metagame and various matchups as we go. I apologize if you've seen any of my other videos, but I'll try and break down the metagame here for a second while we're waiting, and hopefully this pairing engine will actually work. Generally, there's 4 main decks that you should be looking at. You should be looking at blue-black. There's some disagreement on the lists. Obviously, I prefer a creature-heavy version, or relatively. It's 6 creatures being creature-heavy for blue-black, as most versions only play maybe 1 or 2. The other decks you should be looking at are Mono Red Burn, which is just generally a good fast deck, and Green White Hexproof is the third one, because right now Hexproof is just so hard to fight because of how few answers we have in the format that it's basically Freaka's Libation and Bladebrand. And given that no one's playing Bladebrand, it's just you have to go basically the only option you have is going under Hexproof, which is not a great proposition when they can slap Squire's Devotion on something, give it lifelink, and then race you. Great, we got paired. Sorry about canceling out the other time. I found that sometimes it'll just go on forever. The 4th deck that I was going to mention is Mono Black. I think Mono Black is actually very strong right now. So this is a great hand. We've got some card selection here and late game Scry. This is also an extra permanent for Secrets of the Golden City, which I like as our draw engine. It's not great that we have Clear the Mind. I'd rather have basically anything else in the deck right now, but it's fine to have it. And then we've got a couple of lands. I don't play any of the cycling lands right now. I don't think that they're a good choice. I don't like having too many of my lands come into play tapped. There's only so many hands that you can afford to have those tapped lands to slow you down. Usually you can give up turns probably 1 and either 3 or 4 because you've got a lot of 2s and a lot of 3s. So they mulligan to 5. That's pretty rare, as I believe the best of 1 algorithm works, and you generally end up with a lot of lands in your hand, or enough lands. So they're starting with a plains. That means either mono white or it means that they're on hexproof. In this case, it means they're on hexproof. Given that I don't have any removal, I'm debating on whether I should Essence Scatter this or if I should play Omen. I think because I need to actually hit land drops, I'm going to let this resolve, and we're just going to play Omen. It doesn't really matter if I play it in response. There's no free spells. So we got a Swamp, and we got another one of these. I'm going to push this just because I don't want to have to deal with it. I'd rather be drawing actual cards. This is going to become a mana race here. And I don't have access to cancel, but that should be fine. I don't care if they suit this up because of how few cards they have in their hand. I'm much more worried about whether they play a 3-drop such as Jungleborn Pioneer. If they don't do anything that we really care about, then we'll play another Omen or we'll scry. I'm still on the fence about that. We'll probably play another Omen. And if they're only attacking for 1, we don't care. If they played onto this, it would be a very fragile threat. And let's see. Is this Pioneer? Yeah. So Pioneer is actually probably the best one because building the second creature is really dangerous against us, as we don't have a great way of answering it. We do have a way of answering it, but it takes longer. And time is something you don't always have against Hexproof, as they'll often suit up and then attack you for 10, and then on the second shot, if you don't have something, you're dead. So let's see. We need lands. We're a little land light here. The question is, do we do this, or do we just want to play this out and that'll trade? I think that I'm willing to take a moment and play this out, just because that will force them to commit to a bad creature, and also because we drew Blade Brand. If I didn't have Blade Brand, I'd be a lot more gun shy on doing this. Right now, we actually can answer Jade Guardian because there aren't a lot of first strike cards in the format, as I believe I mentioned before. So we'll just play this and we'll call it good, and we'll either Blade Brand, Omen of the Sea, something along those lines. I expect that if they can, they'll load this up a little bit, and we'll take advantage of it. We'll trade off our 1/1, obviously. Oh. Once they target, they actually can't do anything. So, sure, I almost want them to commit more. I'm debating on, because once they, let me see, it fights you don't control. So you've targeted, which means because you've targeted, that it will be a fight, and I can win in Death Touch. You can only win if you have Karametra's Blessing. If they have Blessing, they beat me no matter what in this situation. They've got 2 cards. They might commit to another enchantment. I think I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to let them commit to another enchantment. I'd like to get as much value out of this Blade Brand as possible, and the extra zombie token doesn't really matter. That matters, and that's going to be a big problem. So we didn't quite anticipate that. So now we're going to have to find another creature, but they don't really have a clock given that they don't have anything on board. But we'll see. That was a small misstep, but not one that we really need to worry about. I'll keep the lands, and then Fungal Infection can make our creature if we really need it. So I actually want to keep it in this situation. It's not ideal, but at this point I'd like to get things off the board. We can't take the time to play anything right now, so we'll just do it this way. Hopefully they suit up their creature with something more. Ancestral Mask is perfect, given that it doesn't actually do anything, and they're going to attack for lethal, and we're going to blow them out. And this is where, if we had chat, they'd be like, Blade Brand, what are we doing here? And then we get the great animation where all sorts of stuff falls apart. Okay, so we'll take 1. And we've got Bake into a Pie to cover some stuff if we need it. I'm just going to Secrets of the Golden City and try to get something going here. And perfect. So now we can cover a hexproof threat. We don't really care if they go after these things, because we have Bake into a Pie and Salvager. And we'll also play more Avens as the game goes on. Okay, so we're at this many permanents. I think I can afford to just start the draw engine up at this point. And we'll go back and grab secrets, as we're almost to the right number of permanents. We're actually at 10 right now. We're at 11. So we'll draw a bunch of cards next turn. They can continue doing whatever they're doing. Do I care about Envoy? I don't think I care about Envoy, just because anytime I draw a moment of craving, it's going to immediately go back. I'd rather have this as a stopgap measure. We're going to take a little bit of damage, but bake into a pie just negates an entire attack. So we're going to let that go. Okay, I will play the land. Doesn't really matter if I played that one or another. We'll just draw 3. It's a little lighter on stuff that we want, but this is fine. Oh, I should have attacked. My mistake. The 2 damage shouldn't really matter, but every point matters. So we'll take the 3, and then if it comes down to it, we'll see what they have. Seems like they've got something. I would rather... Debating on mana efficiency here. I think because we have 2 cancels, we're going to take the time to cancel this. And then we're going to Omen of the Sea here. And then we'll start racing, which we should have been doing last turn, and we can discuss how the 2 points of damage would have mattered. And, oh look, we've got Moment of Craving. Everything's great. That will negate a considerable amount of stuff. Do I care about how much mana I have? I have 9... Or sorry, I have 8 mana. I'll have 9 if I want it. What amount matters? 9 actually does matter because 4 plus 2 plus this. So we'll play the untapped land, and then we'll attack. So the green-white hexproof deck is very much based on the first couple of turns. If they get their creatures onto the board in a way that matters, then they're going to win. And if they don't, it's usually pretty crushing. I'm not going to use Bake into a Pie right now. I don't think it's necessary. I'll just hold my counter spells up, and I'll sack one of the Omens. Possibly 2 of them. We'll see what we can get. Even Eternal obviously is great. It'll stop the advance of these things, and then we're fine. And we'll attack for 2. We're pretty stable. They might suit up one of their Avens, and then we'll 2-for-1 them with Bake into a Pie. And we conveniently have 6 mana, so we have Bake and Essence Scatter as needed. And they only have 1 card. Karametra's Blessing is probably the scariest card. We will counter that with Essence Scatter, as just letting them get a 2-for-1 against us is there's no reason to do that right now. And we'll sack another Omen to filter our draws. I really liked Omen. It used to be an opt slot, an opt/radical idea. I used to play some combination of those, and then I ended up just playing Omen. It has one downside in that we'll keep Secrets, as Secrets is the best card we can have right now. The only reason Omen of the Sea is bad is because of the way that Ancestral Mask is templated, and it counts our enchantments as well. I learned that to my detriment at one point. So this doesn't come into play untapped, so we'll just hold it. This doesn't matter. I'm just going to attack with both. I'd rather just race at this point. If they want to double block, they can. They're not going to, though. Just getting this thing done is best. If I tap down, they only get 1 card, so I'm going to take the moment to cycle this. It's not strictly necessary, but I'd like to not have a dead card in my hand. There's no point in tapping down. We can play Aven next turn. Taking 2 is fine, and we have Bake into a Pie if we need it. We're actually killing them faster than they're killing us. I'll sack this if they don't do anything. That's a really interesting card. I don't think that card's good. I guess it's probably a concession to the fact that they need to be able to beat... I got our 3rd island, so now we can recur some stuff if we need to. They need to beat the red decks, because the red decks actually go under green-white hexproof, which is one of the reasons that hexproof has Beloved Princess. Sure, let's just jam everything. Doesn't really matter at this point. Put them to 8. That puts them lethal in this next turn. Obviously, they'll block something, but that's good. We'll just counter this and then kill their entire team, and it'll be fine. Kill their entire team, rebuy the counterspell, etc., etc. It's unfortunate that this is under a pacifism. This is one of the secrets about actually playing against the Amass deck, that their tokens are very soft to the pacifism because you can't get rid of it. If I was playing best 2 out of 3, I'd also play Spark Reaper as a way to sacrifice it. Sure, I don't care. Put them to 1. Let's do this in an interesting way. We'll rebuy, cancel. Then we'll use this as a draw engine. And we'll draw that, we'll draw cancel. We'll play another Aven just cuz, and then we'll cancel their threat, and that'll be all. We drew Toll a little late, but I think Toll is a necessary evil in this deck. Okay, they play on. We won't waste time, and we got him. That was a pretty straightforward game. That was a little bit of a misstep when we missed the 2 points of damage, as that did cost a turn, which under some circumstances would matter, but at a certain point we just had the game. We had the game after we got the 4-for-1 against Jade Guardian. It was a very good thing that we kept the fungal infection there. All right, so let's run this back and see what else we got with this deck. Hopefully we can keep it up. I expect we'll probably see one more hexproof deck this cycle. That and some deck playing Ill-Gotten Inheritance, and then we'll probably play against one nonsense deck and then maybe one burn deck. That's the typical gauntlet. Obviously, there's a certain amount of variance, as the format isn't incredibly big, and we're only playing 4 to 5 games, depending on everything. I think at this point, if it hits 40 seconds, we should be restarting, unfortunately, as it's not going to take the time to Paris. It's just going to run us to infinity. So once you get out of Tier 1, which I was talking about before this match, you typically end up with Bant Turbo Fog as an option. You end up with Black-White Life Gain. There's a few other interesting options you can play around with. I would recommend, if you have that choice, Rat Colony is also like a Tier 2, maybe Tier 3 deck. Mono White is somewhere in that same range. I don't believe that Rat Colony and Mono White are especially good, although they will definitely steal games from you. 30 seconds. Perfect. Let's run this back and see what happens. Hopefully we're playing against something a little bit new. This hand is great. We've got a nice little 2 to stop the aggro attack, and then we've got some other stuff. This is also a hand that's actually going to be good against just about anything, because if we play the blue-black mirror, typically we play against a creatureless deck, which means that about 8 of our cards in our deck are dead. This could be a massacre. Yeah. I'm going to let them go to their turn, just because I actually want to get a different card. Spark Spitter is not very good, and they usually play some pump spells. So what I actually want to get is something else. I want to get a slightly stronger card. I don't expect that they're going to be able to run us over, given that we've got what we have. I also want to entice a dwarf, if they have it. They're playing it? They are playing dwarf. All right, let's get the nice little 2-for-1 there. That was a little too classical. You need to be able to know when to play slow with mono red. I've played mono red in a few different formats, and figuring out when it's best to play fast versus slow is very difficult. They know that the blue-black deck, you have to go underneath its defenses, especially if it's Ill-Gotten Inheritance. They just couldn't know that this is what we'd be on, which is actually going to be a lot better. As you can see, even Eternal just locks this board up. If they have to spend a shock here, and then they have to spend like a pump spell. All right, so they spent the shock, and now look, they spent that shock. They've just 1-for-1 themselves. And now I will trade for their combat trick. They probably have Infuriate, or they have Run Amok, or something like that. But that's totally fine. They have Bargain. Classic. Regardless, they're still stuck here, and they've just used. Sure, we don't care. We're at 15. They have 1 card in hand. You'll notice that they've effectively had to use 2 cards to go beat our card, as we were talking about, and now we're just going to Skeleton Archer them, and next turn we'll draw some cards, put it back on top, draw some more cards, and we're in business. This was a very stereotypical win. The difference of having Moment of Craving versus not is incredibly huge. Mono red is one of the reasons I consider playing more. So an interesting question. We can actually draw the Moment of Craving, or we can draw another Secrets. I'm kind of on the fence about what I'd rather do. I think I would rather be able to kill this creature and then begin the attacks at this point. I think that we're going to do a lot better doing that. So let's go grab Moment of Craving. And then we'll draw some cards, etc., etc. This seems great. We'll kill him. Yeah, they're good gaming us. They know it's over. We're just too many cards ahead. The differences of the hands when you have Moment are just so different from the ones you don't. And anytime you play 2, you're almost always winning unless they were on the play and they were so far ahead of you. Cool. Let's see what we got. Great. Another thing for the piles. All right, let's run into another game and see how much more of the format we can find. Hopefully we can play against mono black or black white or something that's more of a grindy, like mid-range deck. I think that would be fun to play against. That or red green monsters is another good tier 2 deck right now. It's gotten a lot better recently, and I'm a huge fan of what some of the decks are doing with the escape creatures, primarily the Underworld Rager and the either Loathsome Chimera or Voracious Typhon. I always forget that it's a Typhon, even though I believe it's actually a Hydra as its name. So those decks have gained a lot in the last little bit, and I've recently played against some very interesting ones where Underworld Ragehound, I'm sorry, is extremely good as a sticky threat. Just because the 4 power is so relevant and it always trades. We're not in a format where things have first strike. We're not in a format where there's a giant thing that is like a 2/5. No one plays any of those cards. So the recursive 4/2 or 3/1 will always trade on the first attack and the second attack and onwards. It might be worth actually checking out what else we can do. So this hand's going to be great if they're aggro. If they're not aggro, it's going to be like a little soft to blue-black because we've only got 5 relevant cards, but this is never a hand we can ship back. And, oh, they mulligan to 6, okay. And they're on red. This is going to be fun. I need to make sure I actually play a tapped land. I've made some egregious mistakes in the past just by accident, so let's try to avoid doing that. They're blue-red Kiln Fiend. Okay. The blue-red Kiln Fiend deck is very good. We're going to kill this now. We do not want to let them get to their turn, as blue-red decks will play Dive Down and also Barge In, Run Amok, like a bunch of stuff that actually negates this. So we're going to kill all of our stuff right now. We're going to let them play that. We're just going to kill this again on our turn. And we can get around to doing some other stuff next turn. They should be pretty far behind right now, as you can see on the cards. They don't have a great way of gaining advantage. They're a very explosive deck where they want to just fling things at you. I'm sorry that this was so short. I'll try and add an extra game or something at the end if the next, assuming we don't actually get 2 interesting games. This can kind of give you an idea that this deck does just have hands where it has the removal that it needs, and it looks scary enough. A lot of people also think that I'm the Ill-Gotten Inheritance deck, which takes usually around 20 turns to kill them, and I can imagine a lot of people don't want to use that time. This deck can kill people on turn 6. It's very rare, though. It involves Aven Eternal draws. Usually 2 Aven Eternals will kill them on turn 6 or 7 through creatures. So let's see what else we can find. The Kiln Fiend deck is very explosive, as I was saying. The matchup's generally good. I like this blue-black deck against everything in the format except for the Ill-Gotten Inheritance blue-black, the creatureless version. The reason I don't like that matchup is because they simply have more counterspells than we do, which means that they eventually deck us, as they can counter our Clear the Mind, and they can counter it enough times through the recursion with Mystic Sanctuary, with Salvagers, with whatever else. And also their counterspells will exile key cards from our deck, where we actually do have a good recursive engine where we can recur instant sorceries, creatures, whatever we want from the graveyard. We can even recur lands with Clear the Mind if we care about that. This thing's taking too long. So that's the only deck that I really don't like playing with this. I do have other versions of blue-black that can beat it, but I think that ultimately the creatureless blue-black deck, and I disagree with some of the other minds in the community, is clunkier in the non-control matchups. Whereas I think mine excels much more in the aggro matchups and in the this is tough. Much more in the aggro matchups and hexproof match. So if we hit an island, this is obviously great. I think we're on the play. We've got 3 lands. Any island gets us somewhere, but we're dead to hexproof anyway. So I think we're going to mulligan this. This is a painful mulligan, but we'll try it. This is an infinitely better hand. We're definitely going to keep 6, and they've kept. So what do we want? We're going to need the land sooner or later. I like Toll. I like Secrets. I like all these cards. Is the problem. I think what I actually should do is I shouldn't take a land. Like, I need to hit my 4th land after my. So I'm actually going to get rid of Aven Eternal. I think that's correct in this situation. It's painful if I'm playing against red, but otherwise I think it's going to be fine. Okay, so I'm playing against green. Green is almost certainly hexproof. There's a big green monsters deck that's kind of like the red-green monsters deck, but I don't think it's especially good. 2 forests. Grove Dancer. Grove Dancer is, I think, a new innovation for the... I don't think this card's good. This card's going to be fine. We'll keep it. Grove Dancer is a new innovation. It's something that the hexproof decks tend to use to stop the... what on earth is this? Hexproof decks use the Grove Dancer as an anti-mono red card sometimes, and some other nonsense, just as a guy. Okay, then. You get a counter. This is not a real deck, but that's fine. We'll play against it anyway. So they're going to make a 4/4 non-hexproof creature, and we're just going to deal. I think that seems fine. It's going to do some stuff to us, but I think ultimately we're going to be okay. We can Blade Brand our little zombie at some point. They'll never see it coming. They never do. For this next turn, what we'll do is we'll probably attack them unless we draw Blade Brand, and then we'll just draw 2. So we can't deal with any of this nonsense. Well, that's unfortunate. They're going to do Talons next turn, so I'm not going to count on this. I don't think it's worthwhile to do so. Great, we have Blade Brand. Hopefully we draw a land next turn. We'll get in for the 1, and we'll follow our own advice. If we're not going to block, we should be attacking, unless we're trying to represent something. And we're definitely not trying to represent anything here. That's going to be annoying, but we can catch that with Aven Eternal in the sky, and they're going to think they can go over it, and they really can't. So we need a land, though. So if we don't have a land, we're actually going to Omen of the Sea, and then try and hit the land. Okay, so we don't have the land. So we will Omen of the Sea, try to find the land, Aven Eternal, attack for 2. Those are 2 of the worst lands we can possibly draw. We don't want that. We'll take the Guildgate because we don't have anything else to do. We're not dead yet, but this is not pretty. So that was a really unfortunate draw, but there's nothing we can do about that. Oh, I should have actually left that to force them into flying. That was a mistake. We'll take a little bit of time to kill that other one. Yeah. So we took a little bit of damage that we didn't need to, but that's fine. We'll make do. Okay, are they doing something? We'll just kill this one. We're going to make them give it flying just to burn their mana. So we're not actually going to attack for 2 on this next turn. We're just going to ship the turn here. And then we'll Blade Brand. If we were really worried about it, we could wait another turn, but I don't think they're going to have any tricks. There aren't a lot of great tricks, especially out of blue-green, that are combat tricks that matter for Blade Brand. Like they could obviously have Unsummon or something like that. Okay, that's fine with us. And if we fail here, then we're going to be in trouble, but it's not going to be the end of the world. And come on, just resolve. I know that they get priority because of this and because of this. So they probably don't have anything, but they're probably just going to mill a card and try and flip over like a Loathsome Chimera or something. Great. Now we should be firmly in the driver's seat as we've got a counter spell and we're a couple of cards off. How many? We're one card off right now or one permanent. And there's our last permanent. So we'll just end step this and we will go to town. I'm going to hold recover for now. I don't see the reason to recur anything. We're looking for lands. We don't really need them, but in that we don't really need them in that we're going to draw one next turn and play it. So I would probably keep a land, but I think I'll just keep one island and that'll be fine. It's really important that your land drops because of how powerful your late game is. So making sure you hit those land drops is just absolutely critical, as you can do so much with 10 or 12 mana. I know that sounds like an obscene amount of mana, but what you can do with it is very real. All right, well, now we begin the march. This happens a lot in this deck. If you play against mono black and they kill your creatures with tendrils of corruption and stuff like that, you just let them do it. It doesn't matter. Are they really just doing this to troll us? I guess. I think they know they're dead. They're just showing us they can do this. I don't think Zephyr Charge is a good card. We've got a nice little interaction with Skeleton Archers and Blade Brand. Given that we already have the City's Blessing, let's go see what we got. We can maybe keep a land, but we don't want 2 lands in a row. What are they going to do? They're going to kill this. I don't care. Sure, whatever. It flies. They really shouldn't grandstand. Don't think Moment of Craving is where we want to be. I'm actually going to pitch this land as well. I'd rather see some more action at this point. We're looking for more Secrets of the Golden City. And this is really where you see the power of Omen of the Sea. When we've got mana, we're able to hold up mana for counter spells, and then later we can sack these and go searching for our really powerful cards and impactful cards, as the only cards that matter for them are creatures. Everything else doesn't matter. I should probably consider playing Skeleton Archers, but I don't see the point at this moment. We'll just counter that. They might fight back. Given that this is very much a rogue deck, I'm not sure what to expect, so I'm going to play it a little safer. Again, we'll sift. Right now, we'll push anything that is not stand corrected. We'll keep the cancel. Cancel's good. Let's see. So I can attack them for 2 and then Skeleton Archers them down to 10, and then that makes it a 2-turn clock, and we have 2 counter spells. So we'll play Skeleton Archer here, as I think that makes the most sense. I think I'll probably play a bonus game after this, as this doesn't. This was just a little bit too fast, and I want to make sure you get your money's worth, even though this video will be free. Okay, so they knew that this was over. Great, so that was a nice easy little 4-0. It's not always this easy. Usually there's a lot more back and forth, as we saw a little bit with the Hexproof deck, that there's going to be some tricks. I really wish we could play against black, white, or something like that, because that has a lot of play to it. There's a lot of grind. So let's go back in, load up the same deck, and we'll play a bonus game or 2 here. We'll just see how any of these go. But generally, that's the format. I think that there's a lot of play to it. This one seems very simple. The cards are very simple, but the interactions between the cards are not nearly as simple. And hexproof makes the format considerably more complicated than standard Pauper or anything of that nature right now. And the fact that Ancestral Mask exists is a little bit unreasonable at times. This hand is great. We've got an Essence Scatter, we've got a cancel, we've got some interaction. So we should be okay. Oh, we got our wish. Maybe. We got our wish. All right. So now you get to see what this is like in a longer grindy game. We're going to have to take this off the table. The 3 toughness is highly relevant for us, but it's probably going to consider a block at some time later in the game. Blood Burglar. Great. That was the draw we wanted. We wanted Aven Eternal. I'm going to take a moment and kill the Blood Burglar. What on earth is this deck? All right, this is not what I expected us to play against, but you can see how this works against more normal decks. I'm just going to take the time to kill this. I don't see a reason to wait around, as our life total is a resource and I intend to preserve it here. Given that they're only on 2 lands, I'm not scared of really anything coming out on 3, so I'm just going to play Aven Eternal, clog up the board, and then I'll get to sit on stuff and play as a flash deck for a while. That's one of the nice things. You can switch back and forth between being a flash deck and actually having some cards. And they're going to drain us a little bit, which is going to be annoying. But we'll probably bake the Neonate into a pie at some point. And we're more than happy to trade for the Banehound. And if we have to counter something, we might also cycle Bladebrand at that time, as I don't think it's going to be very relevant. Huh, okay, that's interesting. I'm not familiar with this deck. I don't want to sound like I'm too egotistical, but if I don't know of this deck, it probably means it isn't that good, just because I've seen a lot of decks. I'm attacking just for this one because there's no point unless we're going to kill the Banehound and we don't want to waste the mana or the card. It's better than just attacking for 1 and then taking 1 and then gaining 1. All right, that we don't like, and we'll cycle the Bladebrand, which might be a little premature, but we're really digging for things that matter right now, and we don't have a lot of those in our hand. We've got Libation, and this is an artifact, which is good. So, trying to think about what happens. What can they slam that matters? Epicure Blood is on 5. They are on 4 mana right now. I think that I'm going to just serve for 2. If I draw a land on the next turn, I'll feel safer. Generally, what the rule of thumb is you try to stop the Ill-Gotten Inheritance because of how difficult they are to interact with. If they're just killing that, that's fine. Really, the secret of Pauper, as I think I might have mentioned at one point, is that only a few cards matter in each matchup, and the trick is figuring out which ones do. For black, one of the things that matters, we don't care about our creature. One of the cards that matters is Ill-Gotten Inheritance out of black. Epicure of Blood matters, but only as so much as big creatures matter. I don't care about this thing, but I'm trying to figure out what else. I'm on 7 permanents, so I'm actually not going to sack the food because it's a permanent right now for Ascend. And then I'm going to assess where I am now. Given that I have this land, we're just going to jam a 2/2 and go pick up the cancel. The cancel is going to help us out if we have problems. One of the cards I am scared about, and something you have to watch out for, is Reaper of the Night, as that's an addition that you see in a lot of decks these days. Hierophant's Chalice is not a great option. I think if you're looking for something in this slot, Mind Stone is infinitely better, because it's on the right spot of your curve to play Ill-Gotten Inheritance on turn 3. So if you're looking for an option, play that. Don't play Chalice. I have looked at it. I don't think it's a good card. And also you can cash in Mind Stone for a card. The 1 life is not worth it here. We'll probably counter this just because it's an annoying card, and we don't have many things to actually kill it. That was a misclick by them. I've done that before. I did that at some other prior time, and it was incredibly embarrassing. I have a lot of sympathy for them. I think I did when I made that mistake once or twice. I've done it against Hexproof once, where I just wasn't thinking, and I knew what I was going to do. I was going to kill them, and it was going to be great. And I was like, I had 5 cards in hand, and then I lost the game because I misclicked on that. So it's unfortunate. I think we're going to wait one more turn. There's no reason to be attacking, and they can spend more cards on this. Obviously, we should be down this thing, but okay. Do they have any enter the battlefield cards that we think we care about? Really, I'm trying to save the murder for something like that, but I think Essence Scatter is just better. There aren't any sneaky cards that we can worry about, so I'm just gonna, I'll just murder their Neonate. Okay, Omen of the Sea is good. I'm going to Omen now, even though I don't strictly need to, because I don't have a mana issue, and I might choose to do, wow, I don't actually want those. What we're digging for now is we wanted to be drawing 3 cards. So, do I have the correct number of permanents? Is a question. 1, 2, 3. I've miscounted permanents in the past too. So I'm at 10 permanents right now. So I'm just going to pass. I will toll them for their last card. I expect that it doesn't. Wow, they're sitting on Epicure. Okay. That was a nice little find for us. In that case, we're going to bash in for 2, as we don't mind trading. And we'll begin the attack. This deck is extremely good at stabilizing, but it has to get out of the first few turns. If you stumble on mana, that's how you're going to lose a lot of games. I don't care if they want to spend some time attacking me. We can both end up on 19 or somewhere around there. I'm going to dig. It's worth doing this even though we go below the requisite number of permanents. Do we have anything that's good? Nope. All this is useless. So we're going to ship both of these and continue trying to find the card that we actually want. I will take the time to kill that thing with Moment of Craving. Not because it matters, but because I just want to end this game. And it's annoying us. Obviously, we kill the next 4 things that they play that actually matter. But the problem with this deck is we do not have a great way of building a better clock. And it doesn't even matter if we play this because none of the things actually draw more than 1 card. So we might as well just hold it. And when we play a cancel, we can rebuy another cancel or something of that nature. But this game is over. They're obviously flooding out a little bit too. That was a correct concession. So that wasn't quite the mono black deck that they usually play. Usually it's the 1/1 vampire that draws a card and loses you a life at the 2-drop slot, and then like 20 to 25 pieces of removal, and sometimes an Epicure. We'll play one more game just for the value. Let me check it how long this is. Yeah, I think one more game is about right. If it doesn't pair us, then maybe we'll consider something else. I'm sure I'll take this loss at the end and break our perfect 5-0 streak, but that's how it is. Give it to 30, and we don't have it. Let's give it another try. Trying to give you maximum entertainment on this. And hopefully we can find a non-rogue deck, because I know we've played 4 short games in a row, or effectively short. That one didn't give us much trouble. The other one usually takes a long time because Tendrils of Corruption is one of the new additions in the anthology sets, and it gains so much life, just an unreasonable amount of life, and you just have to let them do it. You just keep attacking, and you eventually kill them just because they don't have enough advantage. They're just drawing 1 at a time, and you can reshuffle and just replay your entire deck. Let's try. Sometimes this pairing system doesn't work, or people aren't there. Not sure which. It's definitely gotten a little less busy I played a lot over the weekend, but since then, finding matches has been a little more difficult. I'd imagine people have moved on to other things. I do think this format's really interesting. There's a lot of play to it, and there's a lot of rock, paper, scissors that goes on. I think it would be a really fun best 2 out of 3 format, and that might help provide a few more answers to the hexproof decks. Right now, it's a little bit difficult to beat hexproof while beating the rest of the field. It seems like we can't get a match. Oh, we got a match. Okay, great. This will be the last one, win or lose. Hopefully I don't make too much of a fool of myself, and we'll see where it goes. This hand is fine. Not great. These are a little bit situational, but they should be live. We're going to get potentially run over by certain things, but we'll see what happens. We're on the play at least, which gives us a chance. And we can convert these into cards somewhere. Okay, so red. We're going to see if we can get them with fungal infection, if we possibly can. Ideally, they play another 1/1. They usually have hasters. Great. Come on. Come on, my pretty. We're going to kill this one, obviously, because then we can block the other one and get a nice little 2-for-1. They might try and save it, but saving it actually doesn't matter. And that's what they're probably going to realize in a second here, that we get our 2-for-1 no matter what. Yep. And it's actually better. It doesn't matter which one they infuriate. So we'll get our nice little 2-for-1 there. Play a land. I should have considered playing the other one, but I'm just going to libation them. Like, you're not going to have a lot of great libation targets against red. You just have to grind them out. And it's better to have... not going to take the 1 here. Let's make sure we don't make the mistake our friend from the last game did. The 1... Maybe I should have considered doing that earlier, but I was hoping they would do something else. Ooh, that's spicy. Okay. That's going to be something we're going to need to kill. I expect... We'll see if they take the time to pump. I'm going to let them get to combat this time because there's no cost to me. And we'll see what they decide to do. I can pass the damage. I'm going to make them sacrifice a creature. I don't see a reason why not to. If they want to get in for 5 here, that's fine. I'll go rebuy fungal infection or something and build a 2/2. Sure. We're up cards. We have Toll of the Invasion, which is amazing against red cap. Look at all these X1s. They're just waiting. If they want to spend this to kill our guy, we don't care. So let's just take the knight. We don't care if they, because they also have to do it during their main phase, so that's going to eat all their mana. And that's fine with us. We'll block. If we get a combat trick, so be it. Okay. It doesn't trample, so we're still here. They have this thing. If they want to skewer us, sure. We're at 12. That's fine. We're going to have a 1-turn weakness window, but it's going to be okay. I think that fungal infection is the best 2-for-1 is correct. We will block if we were given the opportunity. And they're dead. All right, so that was blue-black. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this. I'll try and make some more in the future. I'm glad that we got a few wins under our belt with this one. The deck is very powerful. It did appear a little bit, I'll be the first to admit this, even though I shouldn't, given it's my own creation, but it appeared more powerful in this video than it realistically should. However, I'm accustomed in most runs, I'm running a little below average for this cycle, but for the most part, I typically win between 70 and 75% of my games with this deck. As I do a lot of tuning, a lot of the format is untuned right now, and the format's just generally a lot of fun. So if you have a chance, I'd recommend you put this deck together. I put a link in the comments or in the description below, and I'm going to keep that list updated. So that means once the next sets come out and we continue doing this, I'll have a new list for you, and that'll replace it. So you'll note that this list is not going to be the same as the current list that we have here. One final note, the sideboard is what I'm considering playing in the future, that it could be a card that's worth considering. Like, for instance, Ob Nixilis' Cruelty would be good if we felt like there were going to be a lot of escape creatures. The reason I don't play it is because I'm worried about an Ancestral Mask on a non-hexproof threat. Ill-Gotten Inheritance is a potential concession to if I want to fight Ill-Gotten Inheritance head-to-head. But right now, I think that Libation is just stronger. And then there's a selection of other things. You can take a look, and I'm happy to chat on Twitter or anywhere else about some of these choices. Anyway, thank you very much. This is Alaric, or Platypus Jedi, signing off. Hopefully I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.